Hi, I'm your host Vasco Duarte. Welcome to the Scrum Master Toolbox podcast, where we share tips and tricks from Scrum Masters around the world. Every day, we bring you inspiring answers to important questions that all Scrum Masters face day after day. Hello everybody, welcome to our Success Thursday this week with Jeremiah Riedel. Hey Jeremiah, welcome back.
Glad to be back, Vasco.
Absolutely, it's a pleasure to have you back. So, retrospectives are, however, the first topic. We'll talk about success in a second, but share with us, what's your favorite retrospective format and why?
So what I often do is I call like the graph of the last sprint, but from the perspective of a team member. So what you have like basically like you have like an x-axis and a y-axis, and you have like the feeling on the left side, and you have like the time of the last iteration on the other side, right? And the twist on it is that you have to fill like this graph of the last sprint from the perspective of a team member. So basically, they can just use their pen and make this graph. Like they highlight like the highlights. They highlight also like the lowlights. They can put like sticky notes on those high and low lights, but always from the perspective of a team member. For example, like Alex is doing it from a perspective of Eric, and Eric is doing it based on the perspective of Preti. So by doing this, you get like different things out of it. You have like the empathy level. You're trying to look at it from a different perspective from one of your team members. And it helps the team to understand each other a little bit better. So basically what you do there at the beginning, it's kind of like the feeling of the other person. And in the second step, like this person can like respond, okay, this is correct. This is how I went through the iteration. And then you gather already a lot of information of the stuff that happened during last iteration. And if everyone does that, you have like a huge amount of data already gathered, and you can dive into it. So you can combine it easily with something like, I don't know, for example, like lean coffee afterwards, because you already gathered that information. You can combine like with Troika Consulting, that you pin out like several different problems that occurred, and like you have like this small groups, and they can give each other some advice. And usually what I like to end this retrospective format is with the checkout that I would call like, if I were you, I would do XXX in the next iteration, because then it's back again into this kind of like from a perspective of a team member, and you give him like some advice how he or she could behave and do something different like in the next iteration.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great way to combine all of those steps. And also, I really like the twist of having the timeline drawn from one colleague's perspective, because that, as you said, it really exercises our empathy muscles.
Right.
All right. Of course, we do this retrospectives because we want to hopefully help the team succeed. And that means that we need to consider, what does that mean? Like, how do we succeed as Scrum Master? What's the impact we are here to create? So, Jeremiah, share with us, what's your definition of success for a Scrum Master?
So I kind of like the motto of Henry Niebuhr, deliver business value fast, right? And if it really comes down to one single thing, effectiveness of a Scrum Master is kind of like the positive impact of a product to its customers. Because the purpose of this whole thing, working as a team on one product, is that we create something valuable for the customer. And this is super difficult to measure. So I thought a little bit about this question, and I think if you would ask me like, how can I really kind of like measure my success or see if I'm really successful, is that my talking time as a Scrum Master goes down. So the severity of problems that are identified like in retrospectives or in collaboration in the team also goes down. And kind of like the organizational development activities increase. So these are like three indicators like for me to see like, okay, this team is making progress. The team, like there's a shift from this team-based problems down to organizational impediments and problems that occur and that are more important and kind of like having impact on the team performance. So it's kind of like indicators for me and the work that I do as a Scrum Master.
So when you think about your role as a Scrum Master, I think those could be amazing indicators, of course, to add to our personal follow-up, right? Because we are also going through change and we also need follow-up, like we talked about yesterday. When you look to those indicators, what are the things that trigger why these indicators are so important? So, like, for example, why is it so important to measure the time you're talking and to observe that it's actually being reduced over time?
So, for example, like if I start working with teams, usually I try to show them in the beginning how does daily work, and you kind of like set rules together with the team, and you kind of like have this role model role, and you try to show them how things work, how you would go through the process of a meeting, like all those different Scrum events, and after a while, you kind of like handing those responsibilities over to like team members. And they are taking over and doing it on their own. So this is kind of like the talking time that is reducing, just handing over like those processes back into the hands of the team. Of course, you're also part of the team, but it's still kind of like handing over like the responsibility for facilitating those different events. The second thing, like the severity of problems identified, is kind of like after a while, like you're kind of like working on a daily or on a retro basis, always on those big problems. And after a while, like sometimes it feels like, oh, we don't have like that many problems anymore. And then you can add like a little bit more fun into like the retrospectives and do some games and stuff like that, kind of like because the severity of problems is not that deep anymore. Or, and that's like the third part, it's kind of like shifting into like the organizational development level, because there are like impacts, for example, like cross-team collaboration, or like alignment towards like company goals and company direction, things that come in and that can become more severe problems than the team problems themselves.
Yeah,
does that make it clear?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's a great way to kind of have us analyze, how was the week? Like, well, if from 1 to 10, how big were the problems that I had to look into? And were those more organizationally focused problems that the team couldn't handle on their own, or were they like internal team problems that they could, if they were ready, handle on their own, right? Like, I think that's a very important topic. Now, the talking time as a Scrum Master go down, just for clarity's sake, I imagine you refer to that inside the team, right? Because we may be having a lot of talks outside the team with stakeholders and other teams and so on, right?
You're right. Definitely, yes.
Absolutely. It's 3 great metrics for us to keep an eye on our own success as Scrum Masters. Thank you for sharing those, Jeremiah.
Thank you so much, Vasco.
Part of a successful Scrum Master job is to help the product owner. Tomorrow we explore that critical role in Scrum, the product owner role. Tune in to learn about product owner anti-patterns, what you can do to help the product owner, and a real-life example of what a great product owner is and what made it so. Tomorrow on our Friday Product Owner episode. See you tomorrow. We really hope you liked our show. And if you did, why not rate this podcast on Stitcher or iTunes? Share this podcast and let other Scrum Masters know about this valuable resource for their work. Remember that sharing is caring.